Hello and welcome to pmclounge.com. This is Lounge Fever. Lounge Fever is basically a series of videos where we try to answer your questions, we try to answer your burning questions. The question today is related to expert judgment. It's basically about how expert judgment technique is used in the define activities process. Since we are talking about define activities process these days, we recently covered it. I share a link to all the videos that we have done on the schedule management knowledge area in the description below. By the way, we have already covered what expert judgment is. So I will share a link to the dedicated video where we talk about expert judgment in detail. So do check that out in the description below. Again, I was looking for a good photo of an expert and this is the best that I could find. Let's move on. How will the expert define activities? So the question here is basically referencing to the expert judgment technique. So one of the tools and technique that you will often come across in the processes of project management is expert judgment. So how is the expert going to define the activities? Define activity was the recent process that we covered, and I'll share the link to the playlist of all the videos on schedule management knowledge area. Define activities is one of the processes of the schedule management knowledge area, right? So here the question is, how is the expert going to help and define the activities, right, in the define activities process? So this is, of course, like I said earlier, a reference to one of the techniques used in the define activities process, which is expert judgment. This technique is used in many other processes, but it's important to understand here that expert isn't your secretary. So what does this mean is you cannot have an expert in your team and you tell them, hey, we are in the define activities process. Can you define the activities for me? He is not going to do that. He is more of a consultant here rather than your secretary. So that's something that you need to understand. But we have still not answered the question, how is uh, the expert going to define your activities, right? Making use of the expert judgment technique. So here's the thing. Imagine you are managing a project in a totally new domain. How would you break work packages into activities? Now, breaking work packages that come in your WBS into activities is basically what you do in the define activities process. So now, if you imagine that you are managing a project in a totally new domain, let's say you are a construction project manager, but the project that you are handling is something totally different. It is an IT infrastructure project. You, as a PMP certified project manager, understand the fact that project management as a study, as a field of study, is not dependent on any of the industries. You can apply the project management knowledge in any of the industries. But the problem here is the fact that you are not experienced in the IT infrastructure domain. You are a construction project manager. So you may have the work packages. It is possible that you have come up with your WBS. Of course, you might have needed the help of an expert there as well. But to break the WBS, the work packages in the WBS down further into activities, you will still need an expert. And that is why expert judgment is one of the tools and technique of the define activities process. Now, there are two ways to do this. One is either you create a draft, you take all the work packages, you break them down into the activities that you feel is correct, right? So you create a draft of breaking down of all the work packages into activities, and then you have the expert, you let the expert come in and you ask them to review the draft that you have created. That's one way of doing it. The other way is you work with the expert to understand how it's done. So what you do is, like I said, the expert is not your secretary. You cannot give them the WBS and tell them to create activities out of your work packages. You can, however, sit with them, understand how work packages are further decomposed into activities, and you work with them from the beginning itself. Of course, the first way is to create a draft. You give it a try and then ask the expert to review. And the second option, like I mentioned, is you sit with them, you understand how it's done in the IT infrastructure domain, and then you get your activities out of the work packages. So that's all that we had in this video. Hope you liked it. Hope you understood how it's done. Hit the like button if you did, and do hit the bell icon if you're not already subscribed. Subscribe to the channel as well. And if you're wondering what books you should buy, check out the link pmclounge.com/pmp preparation resources with a dash in between. And do check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free resource for PMP and other project management certifications, as well as project management industry information. Thank you.